This idiot here is called Chow Mu. He simply has the power to be reborn stronger and older every time he dies. And every time this happens, a system appears for him, showing some skills he can learn or improve. Daily missions so he can do this, among other functions, including the comments from the latest videos here on the channel. And well, the story we're going to see today is, the more I die, the more invincible I become. Yes, the name is quite intuitive. In a bustling market, a boy with a dog puppet approaches a burly vendor. Then he asks if the pork stall sells melons, questioning their ripeness. The puppet then demands the melons, but peeled. Eyes blazing with anger, the butcher addresses the youth, asking if he's looking for trouble. The boy challenges the butcher, asking what he'll do. Provocatively, he questions if the butcher intends to cut him. Enraged, the butcher threatens to mince him. With a smile, the boy claims to be a martial artist. Furthermore, he accuses Butcher Jen of killing the entire Chow family. The boy then threatens the butcher's life that very day. Suddenly, he throws the puppet aside and announces his technique, Radio Calisthenics number 8. Next, he prepares to attack, rotating his arm. Suddenly, our great hero is struck in the face. Then, the young man falls to the ground, seemingly lifeless, his soul departing his body. Chow Mu is dead. The butcher realizes he didn't hold back and cries out in despair as he flees on his motorcycle. And right behind him, a huge crowd yells that the brute killed someone and urges others not to let him escape. The youth, already in the process of becoming ham, emanates a blue aura. He exclaims that it hurts to be cut alive. Meanwhile, the idiot smiles while lamenting his horrible death and asks the system to let him level up again. While at it, he tosses one of his rewards upwards, a small bag of coins. Then, Chow Mu examines the system, which displays his C death rating, 10 skill points awarded, 20 points remaining, revive limit of 7 days at 4 of 5, immortality cost of 5 points, immortality punch mastery, beginner, at 100%, and aura increase as other rewards. After this, he celebrates his first C level and his immediate mastery of the beginner immortality punch. But Chow Mu notices his decreased skill points and questions if exchanging skill set mastery for skill points is the correct way to use the system. Intrigued, he wonders if the remaining 20 points can offer something more special, considering 5 points granted him the beginner immortality punch. Decisively, he asks the system to maximize the immortality punch. However, the system informs him that his host rating is disqualified and maximization failed. As a result, the system will randomly distribute the points. Chow Mu then questions if the system is encouraging him to die more. Despite this, he decides to test Butcher Jen, whom Miss Snow said was a secret member of the martial arts faction. Determined, he states he can't let the butcher escape, as he needs to become a ghost a few more times. Meanwhile, the butcher speeds through the streets, leaving a trail of dust and wind. Arriving at a temple, he reports to the master that he couldn't resist and killed a boy seeking revenge for the Chow family. Surprised, the master reminds him that they eliminated the Chow family 6 months ago and there are no descendants. The butcher then wonders if they really let someone from the Chow family escape and if that someone is seeking revenge. He confirms that the entire Chow family is dead, but claims to have acted quickly in killing him. Suddenly, he senses a presence and asks who's there. Frightened, he jumps back as Chow Mu reappears before his eyes. Confidently, Chow Ching introduces himself and accuses the butcher of killing his brother, Chow Mu. Enraged, he vows revenge and promises to make the butcher pay. Then, he lunges fiercely toward the butcher, announcing his secret technique, a 100% black, turbocharged cat scratch. Scared, the butcher curses him and tries to defend himself with his cleaver. But Chow Ching grabs the blade with his hand, asking if he's afraid. The butcher, finding him a complete lunatic, suggests he look at his own hand first. Provocatively, Chow Ching says he's caught the blade and challenges the butcher to kill him if he can. Despite the pain, he claims he needs to stay arrogant. The butcher, confused, calls Chow Ching crazy and says he and his brother have lost their minds. Annoyed, he tries to pull the cleaver, but the blade is stuck in our hero's hand. Then, Chow Ching lands a devastating punch to the butcher's face. Staggering back, the butcher recognizes him and says he remembers our hero, whose name is Li Ching. Li Ching? The madman asks. Then the butcher comments that he's different from his brother, showing that he's trained in martial arts. Embarrassed, the brute admits he wasn't focusing, but assures it won't happen again. 5 minutes later, our hero is beaten by the butcher. Exhausted, the brute realizes what he's done again. Chao Ching is dead. Impressed, the butcher comments that the boy sought revenge for his brother without fearing death and that he's a hero, however, a little crazy. Worried, he realizes things have changed, and sending the letter now would deceive the master. Suddenly, he's attacked by Li Mu, who demands his life for killing his brother, Li Qing. Enraged, he attacks the butcher with a powerful kick. The butcher accepts the challenge, saying if they want to die, he'll kill them all. And so, a very intense fight takes place inside the temple. Injured, the butcher falls to the ground, bleeding. Confused, he wonders how many of them there are, as an older one appeared after he killed the younger one. Meanwhile, Li Mu, or Li Qing, even I don't know anymore, observes the system, which shows he died 4 times. The first time, 5 points decreased. The second time, he gained 20% mastery in the immortality punch, but the remaining points decreased by 2, and the death mastery also decreased. The fourth time, 2 remaining points decreased, while 1 mastery point increased to 40%. Worried, he concludes that the higher the mastery, the more points decrease, and since points are randomly distributed, he can only revive once more, making revenge difficult. Discouraged, he considers returning in 7 days. However, he decides this is a good chance as the enemy is weak from previous fights with brothers 2, 3, and 4, and this is the perfect time to attack. So, Li Mu recalls his 4th fight, where, even with only 20% mastery of the immortality punch, he almost won. Optimistic, he believes he now has an even better chance. He then decides to finish the mission quickly and find Miss Snow for other skill sets. He comments that all the brothers look alike and that each is slightly stronger than the last, punching harder and with superior skills. He admits the previous one was on his level and that he probably couldn't face another. Meanwhile, Butcher Zhen tends to his wounds, believing there should be no one else. However, to his surprise, Li Mu appears again. Terrified, he can't believe another fool has appeared to face him. Li Mu then attacks him, and well, revenge complete, Butcher Zhen is dead. After this, our hero, while tossing his rewards upwards, wonders if this is the secret letter he was supposed to deliver to the martial arts faction. Reflecting, he questions if the information Chao Shui gave him is correct and if the butcher was truly involved in the Qi family massacre. He ponders that the first time the butcher killed him, he received a death rating, and that the rating is related to the killer's status. The stronger the villain, the higher the rating. He then wonders if having a higher test rating means the butcher was one of the stronger villains and states he needs to test this theory. Intrigued, Li Mu admits he can't decipher the other letter and decides to deliver it to Miss Snow to see what he can get from it. After a while, our hero walks through an alley in Yan City and approaches Miss Snow's residence, announcing his arrival. Upon entering, Snow immediately touches him. She then asks where he's been. Surprised, she notices his voice is different and that he isn't Xiao Mu. Li Mu smiles, feeling more muscular. He says his aura and strength have increased and that he's become more of a man. Awkwardly, he tries to explain it's just puberty and that everyone goes through it. Still suspicious, Miss Snow questions if that's really it and asks how he can prove he's Xiao Mu. He then puts his hand on his chin and thinks of an answer. Then, he asks if Ning really isn't her last name. She then remembers all the times he asked her that question the previous month. Suddenly, she starts to sniff him. Relieved, Li Mu considers himself lucky. "Whoa! Get your hand off me, woman! This is a family channel!" Snow then confirms it's him, as the smell is the same. Snow crosses her legs, and then she reveals that after the Chow family's death, her eyes started to move, a sign that her divine vision was about to activate. She warns that nothing can hide from her and asks him not to try to deceive her. Li Mu laughs, commenting on her divine vision. Excited, he recognizes her as the last survivor of the Chow family, the legendary martial artist, and says she got this far because she's talented. Li Mu then asks when she'll teach him the next chapter of the immortality punch. Serenely, she advises him not to have such high expectations, as it takes years to fully master aura and strength. Then Li Mu insists on revenge and demands the promise that she'd teach him the immortality punch to avenge the Chow family. family. He claims that he already feels strong enough. Snow then considers him stubborn. Suddenly, she calls him closer and asks him to show her what he's got. Then she touches our hero's arm. Surprised, Snow exclaims that it's hard. She then becomes embarrassed and jumps back, asking why Qiao Mu let her touch him. Smugly, he boasts about his biceps, asking what she thinks. She stammers, impressed by his muscle growth in just a month, and asks if he's a martial arts prodigy. She then praises his strength, stating it's a fundamental skill with no shortcuts. Seizing the opportunity, our hero suggests that since she thinks he's so good, she could also teach him right now. He describes the immortality punch as a special Yang family skill, promising to master it completely to stay young and strong forever. Enthusiastically, he declares this will be his path to divinity. Excitedly, he transforms into a smiling cat and announces the arrival of the divine. Snow acknowledges his progress in just a month, but notes that although he killed Butcher Zhen, he hasn't yet mastered the immortality punch, and his arms only have a few hundred kilograms of force. Then, she says that once he completes his training in the future and kills the butcher, she'll teach him the rest. After hearing this, going against her expectations, Li Mu reveals he killed the butcher and decides to hand over the secret letter. Shocked, she claims it's impossible. Li Mu then admits he doesn't understand the letter's writing. Holding the letter, the girl then states it's a type of secret writing from the martial arts faction. I can't believe he actually defeated the butcher, Snow thinks to herself. Snow then agrees to teach the remaining sections of the immortality punch, since he fulfilled his part of the bargain. Next, she asks him to sit, meditate, and listen attentively while she teaches him. Some time passes, and Snow initiates the training by reciting a martial arts passage. All is empty, little is true. That with form is false, and that without form is true. Half an hour later, Li Mu meditates while the system shows his progress in the immortality punch, advanced, at 40%. Thoughtfully, he notes there's no change in mastery and concludes that the system is much more effective than mastering the technique alone. He then decides to find enemies stronger than the butcher to challenge them. After this, Snow gives him a key to decode the letter's writing. She then asks him to read what's written. Li Mu takes the key and the letter, attempting to decipher the code. Our hero thinks she can't see, but he had already found the key without difficulty and wonders if she's pretending. Finally, he deciphers the letter, which reveals that the Crimson Emperor is leaving the city and that the martial arts faction is planning an assassination. Alarmed, he realizes the gravity of the situation and exclaims, "It's an assassination!" She then asks him where the faction is planning the assassination, where the Emperor is going, and if there are more details. Soon, our hero admits that the key doesn't have all the information, that some pieces are missing, and that he can't determine the exact location or time. Snow then questions how the martial arts faction dares to do this, but admits it's quite likely they'll try. Our hero then wonders if the faction is truly that strong. The woman says she thought she had only told him that the faction and the legendary martial artist killed the entire Chow family, but hadn't explained why. Then, Snow recounts the story of the legendary martial artist, the second strongest known. He single-handedly founded the martial arts faction and destroyed many other factions and gangs. He took for himself the secret arts of all factions and allowed members to read them freely to hone their own skills. The Chow family's immortality punch was granted by the divine to the first generation, but also met its fate. Snow recalls teaching him the immortality punch not to defeat the legendary martial artist, but in the hope that one day when his martial arts matured, he could defeat him so she could kill the martial artist with her own hands. Meanwhile, Li Mu observes her silently. Then, with a mischievous smile, he has an idea. Maybe he can join the faction. Snow, upon hearing this, is startled and asks if he lost his mind during training. He ignores the question and slams the table, offering to join the faction and assassinate the Crimson Emperor for them, thus pitting them against each other. If he can't join the faction, he'll continue defeating their people until he uncovers their entire assassination plan. plan, alerting the imperial court, which would prevent them from taking revenge. Snow, worried, calls him crazy and says that with this plan he will certainly die. Li Mu smiles and argues that if he dies as an assassin, he'll be remembered by most people, and his death rating will likely be high. Furthermore, the faction founded by the second strongest martial artist possesses all the secret arts manuscripts, including the immortality punch. He then concludes that it's the perfect place to level up. Then our hero says that if she's already mentioned the martial artist is as strong as she says, getting revenge is nearly impossible and will likely only cause them trouble. Therefore, this is the best plan, says Li Mu. Snow then cries out in despair, asking what will happen if he dies. Li Mu then reassures her, asking what there is to fear. Snow, intrigued, notices there's no disappointment in his gaze, but rather excitement, and concludes he's serious. She wonders why he's doing this, since the immortality punch means nothing compared to his life. Embarrassed, Snow wonders if he wants her body. Our hero then asks what she's thinking again. Snow justifies herself, saying she feels a great debt of gratitude towards him and offers to do something for him. The girl, completely flushed, states that a warrior like Qiao Mu shouldn't think about such things. Then Li Mu smiles and states there's something only she can do. She asks what it is. Soon Li Mu says it's a secret. Snow is confused but agrees. Our hero then smiles and asks if she knows any other members of the martial arts faction nearby. She replies that she does and says that the Lord of Yan City, Guo Yan, is one of them. And speaking of him now far from where our hero is, a man is attacked by a whip. One of the villains shouts, warning that the Guo family bastard is there and urging them to flee. Meanwhile, another guy orders everyone to disperse as young Master Guo is passing through. And well, there's our victim. Guo Yan appears on horseback. Suddenly, the madman stops. Then he spots a girl and orders her brought to him. A warrior and the woman herself question his audacity. Enraged, the woman calls him a shameless brat and says she'd rather die than follow his orders. Then the guy draws his sword, preparing to attack Guo Yan, but is quickly blocked by one of the guards, who warns that the young master is calling. And well, Guo Yan wasn't actually calling the woman. The girl then mocks him, asking who the beauty he was referring to is. Then he calls the girl shameless, while she asks Zhang Lang for help in teaching the bastard a lesson. Guo Yan soon becomes irritated and orders them to put the woman in her place. Suddenly, his henchmen attack them. Then the brutes start to suffocate her with their immense muscles. The woman, desperate, wonders what kind of strange move that is. Guo Yan smiles. But suddenly, something explodes in front of him. His henchmen, worried, ask the young master what happened. Then Li Mu appears and grabs Guo Yan by the neck. The henchmen then shout that the young master has been abducted. Desperate, Guo Yan begs to be released, claiming his father is the city lord. Li Mu sarcastically asks, "So what?" Guo Yan threatens him, saying his father is coming and that he won't escape, pleading for his life when he arrives. Hearing this, Li Mu laughs, finding the situation hilarious. Then, he thinks that originally, he would intervene, kill the bastard, and be killed by his bodyguards. But if the Lord kills him instead, wouldn't his death rating be even higher? Then, suddenly, the system displays a heroic action, with an estimated death rating of C+, increasing. Excited, Li Mu comments that it's the first time a heroic action coincides with a death rating. He then smiles, anticipating a level up. Guo Yan's henchmen call out to him, worried. And going against expectations, they thank the hero for helping them, but warn that the man is very powerful and ask him to leave to avoid trouble. Li Mu then ignores the request and attacks Guo Yan in front of them. The henchmen are shocked and call out for their young master. "Hero?" asks the half-man, half-woman extra. Then, Li Mu threatens to kill him if they move. Terrified, Guo Yan pleads for his life, offering the entire city and his family in exchange for his safety. Hearing this, Li Mu pauses to consider the proposal, but it leads nowhere, as 5 seconds later, Li Mu, while delivering countless slaps to the idiot's face, yells at him not to surrender and to bring his father quickly. Then, a horse suddenly arrives at the scene. Our hero watches. While the slapped boy calls for his father, Li Mu recognizes him and comments on his strength. Then, Guo Yan's father approaches, ordering him to be quiet. Li Mu, still holding the son hostage, is impressed and states that he has mastered martial arts so well and can unleash so much power with a single shout. Guoyan's father then approaches Li Mu and comments that the boy has a weak aura and is just a beginner martial artist. But for him to be able to lift a person so easily, his physical strength is impressive. Suddenly, Guoyan's father releases a powerful purple aura, which oppresses the surrounding henchmen. Li Mu states that he feels crushed by the weight and pain he emanates. Our hero then orders him to stop. Calmly, Guoyan's father walks towards them, emanating an even more intense aura. Impressed, Guoyan's father notes that he can still speak under pressure, which he considers surprising and daring. Calmly, he asks young Li Mu not to be rash and to talk with him. He admits his son went too far, but implores him to release him, promising to be stricter with him in the future. Li Mu, disappointed, questions why he's apologizing after making such an irritating face. Is he challenging him? Li Mu then wonders how he can make Guoyan's father kill him this way. Then he checks the system and notices his death rating hasn't decreased, meaning he still has a chance. So, Li Mu accuses Guoyan's father of randomly kidnapping people in the streets and questions if a single apology is enough to fix it. Guoyan's father, smiling, introduces his two disciples as members of the Rising Moon faction, founded by him long ago, and offers to pay 200 taels of silver another day to compensate for his son's shameful behavior. The man and woman from before then realize he has identified them, which could be a threat. The woman notes that, on the other hand, Yan City is under his control, and they can't do anything against him. The two then apologize, saying they just arrived in Yan City and may have made some mistakes. And well, the surrounding residents wonder about the people his son injured. Li Mu, impatient, interrupts him and yells for Guoyan. Sarcastically, he asks if he really thought paying some money and apologizing would resolve things. He notes that Guoyan's father seems quite familiar with this tactic and deduces that he must clean up his son's messes frequently. However, he argues that this time, his son had his guards whip people and kidnapped someone publicly. He questions what will happen to the people he killed and injured and how he will pay for it. Li Mu then states that they should pay with their lives. Guoyan's father realizes the boy won't listen and considers him a difficult case. Finally, he asks what Li Mu wants him to do to release his son. Then, Li Mu says releasing him is simple, only when I die. The surrounding people are moved, saying he's just a passerby, but is willing to defend justice and sacrifice his life. Guoyan then states there's no more room for discussion. He decides to take drastic action. And well, in the blink of an eye, an old man appears behind them. Li Mu then notices his movement and quickly turns, preparing for the attack. And then, he finally releases the idiot Guoyan's son. And well, our hero is completely immobilized. The old man twists his arm forcefully. Meanwhile, our lunatic protagonist celebrates, saying, "Come on, my first high-ranking death, here I come." Guoyan then asks the boy's name. Our hero introduces himself as Qiao Mu, stating he has no one backing him and challenging him to kill him without worry. Our protagonist encourages him to proceed and asks what he's waiting for. Admiringly, Guoyan's father praises his audacity. Then Guoyan's father asks the old man to release him. Guoyan's father then acknowledges Qiao Mu's bravery and invites him to join his army and serve his country, allowing him to present himself at his estate anytime. Li Mu, emotional, cries and wonders what's wrong with this script. Guoyan's son, while being carried by a bodybuilder, calls out for his father. But soon, Guoyan's father reprimands his son with a slap, saying he hasn't restrained him enough. He then orders the guards to take him away. Guoyan's father composes himself and invites Qiao Mu to meet him at his estate if he's interested. Hearing this, our hero simply turns into a statue. Around them, people wonder what just happened and exclaim that the young master is a spoiled brat. But at least the Lord seems to have some sense. They comment that the Lord is quite lenient and that the warrior is lucky to be recognized by him. After all, if he joins the Lord's army, he'll be set for life. Li Mu then turns into a beaver, figuratively of course, and exclaims that they were causing trouble. But the Lord Lord was very kind. The environment was perfect, and he even achieved his goal. So why is he still alive? Meanwhile, Li Mu cries, observing the system and realizing that his heroic action and estimated C+ death rating are still active. Then, he observes the immortality lock still closed, meaning the death rating is still increasing. Confused, he realizes his death rating hasn't reset even after the Lord left. What does this mean? He then wonders if he can still get a relatively high rating if he dies now. Suddenly, he has an idea, but wonders why he's like this, and if there's any difference from before. The disciples then applaud him. Our hero is surprised by their reaction. Suddenly, he has an insight. Now he will die as someone who opposed the Lord's son, and not as a random nobody. Excited, he realizes this is the correct way to use the system. He then decides to continue making a name for himself and gaining more fame and recognition so that when he dies, he becomes much stronger. Furthermore, if he fails to die while challenging someone, his death rating will only increase. Then, he concludes that no matter the outcome, whether he survives or dies, he wins either way. Euphoric, he imagines his final death as an epic, high-quality death with an SSS rating. Meanwhile, the disciples watch him, confused. Now in Guoyan's temple, the son screams in pain as they put ice on his face. Guoyan's son, irritated, asks his father why he's recruiting Chao Mu instead of teaching him a lesson. Guoyan's father calms him, asking why he's so impatient, and then he tells the idiot to stop worrying about it. Guoyan's father then explains that when Chao Mu was captured, the people's expressions showed considerable hatred for his disobedient son, which damaged his image as a benevolent lord in Yan City. Therefore, recruiting Chao Mu was a much better move, calming the people and gaining their approval. Next, he reprimands his son, saying he warned him long ago and that he'll get into big trouble sooner or later. He then forbids him from leaving the estate for the next month, which leaves Guoyan's son indignant. The father explains that around this time, His Highness may visit Yan City, and he's keeping him on the estate to prevent him from being killed. Guoyan's son, curious, asks about the Crimson Emperor and questions the reliability of the source. Guoyan's father then asks how he could inform him about his trip, as who knows what kind of assassins that might attract. But will Chao Mu accept your invitation to join the Yan City army? Asks the idiot son. The father then states he has ways of dealing with him, regardless of whether he joins or not, and if he accepts, it will make things much easier. Guoyan's father then suggests sending him to deal with the thieves on East Mountain. Well, I guess our protagonist will die many times along this journey, right? Krillin, we have a strong competitor for you, my dear.